Urgent. Imagine you're cleared for takeoff and look down the runway to see a massive, dark wall of clouds violently swallowing the clear sky. That wall is a weather front, a highly dynamic, three-dimensional boundary where moving air masses with different physical properties collide. For student pilots preparing for DGCA exams, these frontal systems often trigger a cycle of rote learning, where students attempt to pass meteorology by memorizing massive tables of weather conditions for every type of front. This chart illustrates the difficulty. Traditional weather maps flatten these towering systems into two-dimensional lines and basic symbols, presenting fronts as arbitrary ink rather than physical moving objects. Understanding the first principles of fluid dynamics, specifically density, pressure, and slope, allows you to logically deduce every weather condition in a frontal system. If you are a DGCA exam prep student looking for syllabus-aligned content that makes sense, subscribe to the Pilot Arnav channel. Mastery of these systems allows a pilot to visualize the three-dimensional aerodynamic reality hiding behind the flat ink of a chart. To understand a front, we first have to define the air mass. This is a body of air covering thousands of square kilometers, where the horizontal and vertical distribution is almost entirely uniform. The temperature and humidity of an air mass are inherited from its geographical origin. We can map it out using a matrix of temperature against humidity. Air originating over the poles is polar, while air near the equator is tropical. Extremes exist as well, Arctic for extreme cold and equatorial for extreme heat. For humidity, air forming over land is continental and dry. Air forming over water is maritime, absorbing moisture to become humid. Combining these axes gives us specific profiles. A polar continental mass is cold and dry, whereas a tropical maritime mass is warm and moist. These specific combinations of temperature and humidity dictate the physical density of the air mass, which serves as the engine driving every frontal collision. In a warm front, a lighter, warm air mass attempts to overtake and push a denser, cold air mass. Because the warm air is lighter, it glides up and over the cold mass. The warm air faces resistance from the heavier cold mass, resulting in a slow forward speed of about 10 to 15 knots and a shallow slope of roughly 1 to 150. For every 150 nautical miles covered horizontally, the air rises 1 nautical mile vertically. This rising air creates a low-pressure zone ahead of the front. As it travels up that long, shallow slope, it produces a sequence of stratiform clouds, building from high cirrus down to thick nimbostratus. This wide, shallow cloud layer results in heavy, steady precipitation, creating poor visibility over a massive geographical area. When the boundary of the front passes overhead, the temperature rises with the arrival of the warm air. Pressure steadies and the heavy rain softens to a drizzle. Visibility hazards peak at the front due to severe fog, caused by low stratus clouds intersecting directly with the ground. Once the aircraft is behind the front, it is immersed in the warm air mass. Temperatures rise and pressure climbs. The clouds break into scattered stratocumulus, and visibility greatly improves. Synoptic charts mark this system with red semicircles pointing in the direction the warm air mass is moving. The shallow slope of a warm front ensures its weather effects are widespread, steady, and slow to clear. In a cold front, dense, heavy cold air aggressively overtakes a warmer air mass. The heavier cold air undercuts the warm air, shoving it violently upward. This dense air plows forward at roughly 30 knots, twice the speed of a warm front, creating a steep boundary slope of 1 to 50. This violent upward forcing produces deep vertical clouds ahead of the front. When these cumulonimbus clouds group together in a single boundary, they form a line squall. For an approaching pilot, a line squall appears as a continuous, dark wall of clouds stretching across the horizon. As the cold front passes, the temperature drops. You experience minimum atmospheric pressure under the cumulonimbus clouds, accompanied by gusty winds, heavy showers, and poor visibility. Behind the front, cold air settles. Pressure rises rapidly, showers clear, and clouds break into isolated cumulus, with visibility improving after initial fog. On charts, this is represented by blue triangles pointing in the direction of the cold air's movement. The speed and steep slope of a cold front result in highly localized, violent, and vertically developed weather. We can now explain why winds back and strengthen ahead of a front, but veer and weaken behind it. Ahead of the front, air is being pushed up the slope. This rising air creates low pressure at the surface. In the northern hemisphere, low pressure forces winds counterclockwise, a shift known as backing. These low pressure zones have tightly packed isobars. This steep pressure gradient accelerates the air, causing the winds to strengthen. Behind the front, cooler air is settling, creating a high-pressure zone. High pressure forces winds clockwise, which is known as veering. In a high-pressure zone, widely spaced isobars create a weak pressure gradient, causing the winds to lose their force. These wind shifts occur as a direct, unavoidable physical consequence of pressure changes, dictated by colliding air mass slopes. Cold fronts eventually catch up to slower warm fronts. When this happens, the cold front wedges under the warm front, pinching the warm air completely off the ground to create an occluded front. Cold occlusions are common in India during winter and are known as Western Disturbances. These systems trap intense cumulonimbus clouds between the two converging cold air masses. If the air masses stall, they form a stationary front, where winds blow parallel to the boundary in opposite directions. The formation or strengthening of a front is called frontogenesis, while its dissipation is frontolysis. Intersecting systems compound these severe fluid dynamic hazards, requiring modern pilots to constantly maintain strict three-dimensional spatial awareness. View the synoptic chart as a precise mechanical blueprint of atmospheric density and motion. By identifying the speed, slope, and pressure of the air mass, you can derive the exact weather conditions without consulting a textbook table. Mastering these physical laws simplifies the DGCA exams and provides the foundation for safe operation across complex flight levels. Subscribe to the Pilot Arnav channel for upcoming navigation breakdowns, and contact the Academy for structured DGCA demo classes. A true aviator commands the sky by understanding the physics that governs it. When observing the upper atmosphere during winter months, you will routinely find massive, fast-moving cloud bands sweeping in from the west to blanket the subcontinent. For students of DGCA Aviation Meteorology, understanding the exact mechanics of this specific system, known as the Western Disturbance, is a strict requirement. The terminology outlines exactly what we are looking at. Western dictates the directional origin of the incoming air mass. Disturbance indicates an atmospheric interruption that degrades visibility and causes severe weather. At the surface level, this atmospheric interruption produces heavy overcast skies, sudden unseasonal downpours, and localized flooding across the plains. At higher altitudes, the threat shifts to the terrain itself. The system drops severe snow accumulations that obscure mountain passes and frequently trigger deep slab avalanches. This creates a strict meteorological paradox. India's winter climate is characterized as uniformly dry. Yet, during the coldest months of the year, the Northwest is repeatedly battered by these severe storm systems. To forecast this paradox accurately, pilots and meteorologists must look far beyond Indian airspace. You have to track synoptic-scale air movements starting thousands of miles to the west. Planetary air movement begins with Earth's axial tilt. As it orbits the sun, this tilt dictates how solar radiation hits the surface, driving seasonal heating. This interacts with atmospheric thermodynamics. Solid land masses heat up and cool down much faster than large bodies of water. Now, look at the geographic coordinates. The Mediterranean, Dead, and Caspian Seas sit at distinctly higher northern latitudes compared to the lower position of the Indian subcontinent. Because of that higher position, the Mediterranean region receives a lower angle of direct solar radiation. When winter ends, the landmass surrounding the Mediterranean remains relatively cold, while the Indian landmass to the southeast warms up rapidly. This uneven surface heating between Europe and South Asia builds the massive temperature gradient required to mobilize air. Moving vertically into the atmosphere, we locate the subtropical high-pressure belt. This latitudinal transition zone divides the hot tropics from cold temperate regions. The Mediterranean Sea rests precisely within this subtropical boundary. Pulling up a vertical cross-section of the troposphere here, the mechanics become visible. dense polar air meets warm equatorial air, colliding high in the upper atmosphere. This convergence leaves the mass nowhere to go but down, forcefully creating a dense high-pressure zone. Up in the high atmosphere, the sheer force of these colliding warm and cold temperatures triggers cyclogenesis, a violently rotating cyclonic circulation. This newly formed extratropical cyclone is the exact moment a Western disturbance is born. It is a mathematically predictable storm generated by the sheer mechanics of colliding air masses inside the high-pressure belt. The logistical question becomes, how does a cyclonic system originating over Italy navigate thousands of miles to reach Indian airspace? The transport mechanism is the subtropical jet stream. Pushed by the Coriolis effect, this high-velocity river of air flows continually from west to east. Much like a swift river current carrying heavy stones along a riverbed, the jet stream physically advects the cyclonic storm eastward. This map shows the exact flight path. The storm advances over the land masses of Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. As the system travels, it passes directly over the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. Passing over these open wires allows the cyclone to pull up massive volumes of moisture. The jet stream acts as an intercontinental conveyor belt, taking a distant meteorological anomaly and converting it into an incoming threat. The disturbance ultimately reaches the Indian subcontinent, where it immediately crashes into the towering vertical wall of the Himalayas. This massive orographic barrier physically blocks the high-speed western winds. The collision breaks the storm's eastward momentum entirely, forcing the thick cloud layers to stall out against the peaks. Simultaneously, the thermal dynamics on the ground are shifting. By mid-February, daytime temperatures across North Indian states like Rajasthan, Delhi, and Punjab begin climbing to 30 degrees Celsius. This intense localized heating generates a massive rising thermal low-pressure zone directly over the northern plains. We return to the primary rule: air always moves from high pressure to low pressure. The thermal vacuum at the surface physically pulls the stalled disturbance down from the mountains, spreading the moisture outward across the flat terrain. The Himalayas trap the system against the mountains, and the thermal low of the plains draws it inward. Together, they dictate exactly where the payload will drop. For flight operations, this dictates specific geographical hazards. Aircraft over the plains will drop into severe instrument flight rules conditions caused by heavy rain, while flight paths closer to the mountains will encounter extreme hail and snow buildup. When the pressure gradient is strong enough, the hazard expands. The disturbance can dip south of the Tropic of Cancer, affecting Gujarat and Maharashtra, or push eastward into the Gangetic Plains. Beyond aviation safety, these specific atmospheric mechanics determine the health of India's agricultural economy. The winter rainfall delivered by these disturbances is the sole water source for rabi crops, particularly wheat, which underpins the nation's food security. The timing of the pressure shift is the deciding factor. Moisture in early winter guarantees a strong yield, but if a disturbance arrives late during the April or May harvest, the excess water rots the crops in the field. In extreme cases, the massive influx of precipitation destabilizes the terrain entirely, tearing down hillsides in severe landslides and flash floods. For the aviation meteorologist, the mechanics are linear. Differential heating builds the pressure gradients, the subtropical jet stream advects the cyclone, and surface thermals pull the hazard to the ground. Accurately tracking the Western disturbance is an absolute requirement to ensure agricultural survival and secure flight operations.